G'day, welcome to the Weekend Waves. You're with Spinksy, and this morning we have a very special guest, known throughout the world pretty much as the voice of the WSL broadcast. And we just finished off a fantastic event, number 6 down there at the Gold Coast, Burleigh Heads. Joining me this morning is no other than Joe Turpel. G'day, Joe.
G'day, Spinksy. Thanks so much for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Sorry I couldn't get down there. I'm up on the sunny, a lot of other work restrictions, unfortunately. But again, thank you for your time this morning. Wow, what an event. Oh,
Wow. Yeah. I was trying to think about all the exciting finals that we've seen in the last even just decade or so. And gosh, with Julian and Felipe, that was just one of the best. And there's just so much in it, wasn't there? Like with their history, Julian coming from the trials. Gosh, man, he made an impact on his comeback and his intentions for the tour. There's just so much in it. I was walking down on the headland this morning, grabbing a coffee, and everyone's still just buzzing off it, like talking about that being one of the best finals, we've ever seen. So yeah, our cup is full.
Were the Brazos still yelling and cheering down there this morning?
That was so awesome, man. Because you always make that reference, like the Coliseum, and those drone shots were just so amazing to see, because it looked like versions of the old Stubbies photos that I saw. I wasn't born yet at the 77 Stubbies. And all of a sudden you're going, no way, this thing is maybe not as packed as the Stubbies, but it's packed. And with the representation of Brazilian fans with the local Australian fans, and having an Aussie and a Brazilian in the men's final, it was unbelievable. It was like a soccer match in that point of every turn meant something, and there was eruptions and cheers and a couple of hand gestures, and it was just I don't know, for sport. I mean, and for surfing, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, you couldn't script that any better, to be quite honest. And I think Burleigh, as you mentioned, that arena, like I love Snapper Rocks. And it's always been great there. But I think it just seemed to be with the audience, the crowd, that we're closer to the surfer there, especially with them on the rocks. So I'm hoping it stays at Burleigh. That'd be nice. I know it's back on at Snapper next year, but you never know. Another Alfred might turn up.
One of Alfred's cousins. You never know. But it's like... why not dream a little bit? Well, maybe we could have scaffolding set up all around the Goldie. And, this event traditionally went very mobile in the past. And what if you could, set up at every location, and on its day, you could be moving the tour just to where the best banks are, where the best swells aligned. And what if you did round 1 at Burleigh, like quarters at Snapper, and maybe score Kira? Like that would be the ultimate.
Yeah, a lot of infrastructure involved with that, though.
I'm sure that's hard work. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not building that.
Yeah, that's true. So heading off to Margaret's and getting off this big high, the cut. It's got to... there's a couple that have already moved in and sort of saved themselves now. I personally, my opinion, I wasn't and I think many others, but on my side, I'm not a big fan of the cut. I always thought it should be everybody still deserves that chance, because someone could be, a win away and he's missed, and they've gone to the end comp and could take it all, particularly with that final 5. But hey, and it's an experiment, and I'm sure now that they're reevaluated, they've changed that circuit for next year.
Yeah, I mean, it brought a lot of things, didn't it? We've seen the cut for a few seasons now, so I know you remember the first time the cut was introduced. That feeling at Margaret River was just like the saddest thing in the world. People were crying. They didn't know what it meant for their careers. Joao talked about it. Leo Fioravanti was cut. There's all these names just going like they were like devastated, and that evolved, I think, over the last few years where people realized it wasn't like a career ending sentence. It was actually a chance to redefine your career and actually come back for the following season. And I think with that, with the surfers talking to the organization, and it's now clear that the cut will be gone, and we're going to the schedule that's announced for next year is unbelievable. And so I think as the organization listens and tries to create the best platform you can, I think it's cool. Yeah, it was like the cut did bring drama. It brought intensity. It brought meaning to like event number 5 where there was something really heavy on the line. So those heats were like really intense. And you're not going to recreate that same drama halfway through, but I like how everything's shifting to pipe again, and how pipe's going to be heavily rated, 15,000 points on the line. And, there'll be a lot of new feelings going into next year too. So, I mean, surfing's such an open book as far as an organization, and there's been so many changes almost yearly, with like, can we make this better? Can we make this better? And I don't even want to get ahead of myself too much, because I'm still really looking forward to a cloud break for a world title, so I think there's still so much to look forward to this year. And then next year finishing at pipe, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, true. Like the traditional back in the ASP days was, you had your traditional Triple Crown, Sunset, Haleiwa, ended at pipe, and everyone competed. So it's this new schedule seems to getting back to that, but there's something I'm not very familiar with, and it's next year they have the post. It's like they take so many off, but they all come back again.
Yes, exactly. So there'll be 2 kind of like postseason events, you could call it. That's Abu Dhabi and also Portugal. And so that will be that condensed tour, which really kind of defines who really is in the running for a world title, but the drama of pipe is going to be amplified because everyone will be back for that. It'll be a full field, but also with, 1.5 times the points available, people are going to see what kind of chance they have to stay on tour, so you'll still get the drama of the guys coming back, but you'll see that top end really focused in on who might be winning a world title next year. It's never been done like that before, so we're going to definitely be feeling it out and see what it feels like.
Yeah, fine. So you've been doing this for quite a long while now. What got you into broadcasting?
Yeah, when did I meet you, Spinksy? A long time ago now, huh?
Yeah, long time.
Long time.
But it was down at Snapper, one of the events. I was doing some radio interviews. I got Barton was there. He was still with Hurley then. So back to back, I was with Bob. So yeah, that was back then. But you've been doing it quite a long time. Like I've followed you on Instagram, and we've just had a few. We're not personal friends. We know of each other. But it's been a long time. And I remember it was you and Potts, if I'm correct, always at one stage. Yeah.
Oh, that was really fun. Yeah, it is wild thinking about how long I've been doing it, because every once in a while it comes up, I still feel like kind of a Grom in a way, and just like, whoa, yeah, time is moving on. I'm getting gray hairs, and my body's not moving as quick as it used to. And I'm realizing I'm getting up there, but it's like, maybe 18 years of calling heats. And I'm really grateful for it. I still feel challenged by it. It's like a job that requires like my 100% attention. And I think it's a job that you never are done. You always have a better one in you. And maybe that's comparable to like an athlete always trying to push for their best. It feels similar for me. So like there's things that I'm grateful that I've grown with. Like, gosh, my first few CT events, especially pipe, man, the nerves were real, and the cameras seemed so big and the scaffolding looked just enormous and the history and pipeline. And I was like, whoa, here we go. Take a deep breath, man. And I'm grateful that those are way behind me. And I remember it, and it's really fun to think about that feeling I got. And, it does give you good adrenaline for big heats and all that. And so, yeah, it's been a while. And that era I was with Potts was unbelievable. It was a time when, the new ownership came on, and they really wanted to invest in those teams that were going to be calling finals as well. And to sit next to Potts for 6 straight seasons, and call finals and world titles together was something that is, the peak of my career, of having a guy like him who has accomplished so much, first of all, one of the best ever. And we became like family, like we're on the road together, and he was like a big brother, and once Potts is looking after you, it's for life. He's such a loyal human being, and he's got a huge heart, man. And there's one part of it, if it wasn't like that, how hard would that be to call 6 years of heats together from round one to the final with someone that you didn't want to spend time with? So for us, it was like a brotherhood that we're really grateful to have. And, we could pick each other up through the highs and lows of life that you deal with on the road. And gosh, yeah, those are some of my favorite memories, man. I really love that guy.
Yeah. You've definitely traveled the globe numerous times. Plenty of passports have been used up, I guess.
Oh, for sure. My new one's heavy. I turn it in sometimes, and they're like, who is that? I went through this really long hair phase, and I went a little too long. I think I look ridiculous, but every time I open my passport photo, they're like, whoa, that was a phase.
Go with the flow, they say.
Yeah, go with the flow. Yeah. I might bring it back. I don't know.
Yeah, never know, mate. You never know. So you getting into broadcasting yourself, you did you went to university or college, it's known over there in the States, and that started you off. Did a little read up on your bio, started off in just in local beach events with the NSSA at the time.
Those were really fun. It was, so University of California, Santa Barbara. So Rincon, those waves, Connor Coffin, Lakey Peterson territory. And it was such a beautiful part of the coastline, probably my favorite part of California. And surfing a bunch, and then we had a surf team where we would travel and compete against other universities, and they were always doing beach announcing for live scores, just like they do everywhere. And I just kept thinking, man, I really want to try that. I really want to give that a shot. And I got an internship at KEYT, this local TV station in Santa Barbara. And I was able to work in the newsroom, write stories. It was funny. They put me on the kickers. In the news, like sometimes there's bad news, and they always wanted to finish with like something really light. So my responsibility was to do these weird little play on words and puns, and there'd be these news feeds that are coming in from the country, and like through ABC, you could pull what you liked. And so there'd be like, oh, in Yosemite, a bear got out into somebody's ice chest and drank 25 beers and is passed out. And they'd want to leave on like something really light, and they'd show the bear just like rolling around and like, and I would just write like something like punny over that. And
nice.
They started sticking me to that segment for a long time. And I just enjoyed the process of also live TV. It's like, man, we had this sports anchor at that TV station who would lose his marbles before live TV. And me as the intern, I'm just going like, oh, what's going on? He's going live in 10 minutes and he's freaking out, like cussing up a storm. That's not ready yet. What's going on? And I'm just like watching going like, hey, can I help? And everyone's like, hey, stay away. This is what he does. And I was just like, my adrenaline was pumping going, oh, the show's going to be, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden he'd get counted in. He's still like kind of messing up the table. And they're like 3, 2, 1. He'd be like, good evening, everybody. Like, welcome to San, and I'm like, whoa. And it was how he got himself pumped up for TV. And I started seeing him do that like all the time. And as an intern, I was just like, what is going on? I don't like preparing like that. That is stressful. I just want to roll in and feel good. But that was one of the funny things I watched in that live arena of like, the show is going to start. This guy's going to drive some adrenaline, and he would kind of lean on like the drama, I think, to build him up to perform, you know? So that was a really good time to like see the ins and outs of like live TV in like in a controlled setting in like a studio.
Yeah. Your dad was a broadcaster. Was it horse racing or what did he?
Oh yeah, he did a lot of things in entertainment. He was never a sportscaster, but
Okay.
he did, man. He worked at a little news station. He did lots of things. He was a stuntman. There was a soap opera show called The Young and the Restless. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was on about 10 episodes. I think his character died in an elevator, but he got some good scenes in that.
Peeled off.
Yeah, no, totally. And he just was like, well, that was fun what my character's done. So he'd move on, and he was on like Weber barbecue commercials. Back then, if you were on like a commercial nationwide, you know, people kind of recognized you. Nowadays with apps and Netflix and Hulu and YouTube, like you could definitely be on a commercial and no one will see it maybe, you know, but back then he had a nice little run with things like that when I was really little. And he really understood how the inner workings of a broadcast really works. And so when I first started doing this, he just reached out to me and he's like, oh, it's really cool. He was never pushing me towards this kind of career. And when he watched the first few, you know, broadcasts I was on, he was like, yeah, I think I can help you with this. And it was really valuable to me because no one was really telling you how to do it. You know, people would hire you or the brands would hire you and that was it, you know? And so there wasn't really like a lot of like people that were specialists from that area that were giving you like, hey, try this or try that. And even simply like things like introducing who's coming into the booth next. My dad told me to do that years ago. And he's like, yeah, it's just continuity for a viewer. They know it's coming. It's an abrupt change of voices when you don't say you're stepping out and someone's stepping in. And at that time, you know, we were just like, okay, we're done and like moving on. And it was just those little things that my dad would send me notes on and I would just pick it up. And then it was really fun for our relationship. We had something to discuss, even debate on all things that come with live TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Insane. And born in California, moved to Hawaii at some point in your younger life, but then moved back now. And that's your home base, I gather.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm kind of a hybrid of the two places. My dad lived in Hawaii when he was like year 6 to his senior year of high school. My grandfather, we all have the same name, so Joseph Turpel the First. He was a commander in the Navy, so he was stationed in Hawaii. And then that's where my dad fell in love with surfing, and he was a lifeguard at Fort DeRussy on the island. And he got into Universal Studios and the A-Team, you know, like with Mr. T and all those guys on the live action show on the lot. And so that's in LA. Just a quick story. He goes on strike. He was trying to help out the stuntmen get better wages. It didn't work out the second time. They changed the show to Miami Vice. And then my dad saw that as an opportunity to move back to Hawaii. And he wanted like us to experience what he had for all those years. And so, yeah, we moved over to Oahu, and my mom's, was a teacher. And so she got a job at Punahou, and we lived on this giant school, you know, in faculty housing in Manoa. And then my dad would start taking us surfing it in Waikiki, and we had fun beach days. I was playing a lot of sports at the time, but it was just such a fun way to grow up. And then right before high school, I moved back to California and moved up and down the coast for several years before, finally returning.
Yeah, lovely. You got your mind, you know, you're just off the bat. It's like you're walking encyclopedia, particularly with surfing, you know, results and heats going back years. Like, how does that all store in that brain? Is it because of the repetitiveness of you calling and just remembering those at the time? And does it just flow in at the time, or you just have, you like on a, like reading a book, okay, I'm going to chapter 2, da da da. How do you? Wow, it's amazing how you pick it all up. Excuse me for blabbing on, but yeah.
No, thanks, Spinksy. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of being really lucky of doing this for all those years, and if I've seen it, I usually can recall it, or and sometimes in conversation, if something really sticks with me, I can remember it, but it's not always the same. Sometimes when you call a heat, you're like, oh, this feels, I remember this from here, or I remember this matchup, or and sometimes I get really lucky with that flow, like where my brain just feels awake. I feel alert. And I have some heats where I prepare for it, like studying for a test. I'll have like 2 heats off and I'm thinking about the heats I'm calling on my break. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it comes to me at those points, so I can kind of have that fresh in my mind. So it's not a complete spontaneous recall. I've kind of like been thinking about it in the past hour before that heat begins. Yeah. But I love the magic when it happens, when it comes to me in real time. When I don't really like having a lot of notes in front of me in a heat call, I can find it really distracting. Or if you have a stat that is like, oh, this is really a cool stat. Sometimes I find you can almost be distracted by those notes. You can be distracted from what's going on in the water, where you're trying to force this rad stat you found that kept you up all night. And I would rather have like a bunch of bullet points written down and not even get to it in the heat. I'd rather, if the heat's really good and the waves are pumping and you're kind of relying on your instincts, those are my favorite heats. And there's always those ones with the long lull where you're surprised and there's still 28 minutes to go and you're like, okay, where are we going here? And those push you to like create, an artful conversation and bring the best out of whoever you're in the booth with. So every heat's different like that, which what makes the job so fun. It pushes you in different ways. And there's some heats that go by like in 2 seconds and you're really grateful that all those things came into your head at the right time.
Yeah. Who, like obviously we mentioned Potts, outside of Potts, who are your favorite, if you wanted to single out a couple, like broadcasting together a heat and just bouncing off each other? Who comes to mind of really you just enjoying that time?
Gosh, there's been so many great eras of the last 18 years of working with unbelievable people in like the Potts era is all time, and I remember when I first got hired by Billabong, they paired me with Aki a lot, and being with Aki was just so much fun because he's so unpredictable. He's really funny, as you know, and he's just classic. So the amount of laughs we would have in between heats, in heats, and him just being Aki were just so much fun. They're just really fun days, and then all the years with BL, Barton Lynch, he's just his enthusiasm, his how he drives a narrative, how his mind works, and with empathy. And I think also from where he stands as a world champ, in a different way, he's a very unique world champ in the fact that he knows what the hard yards he went through, and he knows how to provide that empathy for the entire tour and just every situation you can go through, and he can respond to it on a dime, which is really great. Gosh, so many. There's just a really long list of incredible color partners, and I really enjoy like people coming in for the first time. It doesn't have to be this pro color broadcaster. Sometimes people that go, hey Joe, like I've never done this, like help me out a little bit. And sometimes those are my favorite heats, just because you get to see how someone can grow and get used to being on live TV. We have no second take, and then but also bringing out the best in them. So when I get thrown people that have never done it before or maybe don't have experience, I look forward to that too. It gives me a chance to extend my craft even more to bring the best out of them. That's my frame of reference. I just want to bring the best on whoever I'm with in the booth,
Yeah, I've noticed that with Flick, Laura, and Richie as well through that. They're pretty new to the scene. And, yeah, they probably were feeling what you just mentioned, a bit daunted. Okay,
Yeah.
here we
How
go.
good, how good
Yeah.
are they, man? Like
Hmm.
it's such a good team. Like that,
Hmm.
that I think we all like after yesterday or whenever that was, 2 days ago, the final, Betty, Lou, Sally, uh, Felipe and Julian. And then we were all of our team from Laura to Flick to Richie to Bugs. Like I
Mm.
love working with all those guys and they
Mm.
all bring something different. I think it's cool when someone is just themselves. I've worked with, some that I think they have to be something else when they go on in the booth. And, as far as the crew we just worked with, like they are themselves, and that personality makes it like a big choir where you have different voices, and I think they really feed off every situation really well. Flick's got a sharp mind. She's got rad, perspectives. Richie has that really cool Australian sports-centered kind of breakdown that is really easy to listen to. And yeah,
Hmm.
and just when Bugs talks, you're just like, oh wow, I just
Yeah.
want to sit down and listen as long as I can, and all you want Bugs to do is tell you stories, and so each person brings something different. And when they assemble a team like that, where people are from different generations, I think it really just makes the show so much better.
Yeah. With Vaughan on there too. Yeah, strolling around on the hill, particularly the finals day, at the Stone and Wood pub, and just
Oh
going
yeah.
around and capturing all the moments and everyone, especially when Liam
Oh
O'Brien,
my
and
gosh, that
the
was
crew,
unbelievable.
early board riders, Lob, it's like
Oh,
crazy,
well, that's
yeah.
what's rad too
Mm.
about the Blakey brothers and
Hmm.
their just charisma. They're the guys that walk into a party and everyone gravitates towards them.
Yeah,
They have that type of magnetism.
yeah,
And also in saying that, it's like just unbelievable surf minds that never slowed down with their passion for the sport. And with Vaughn, like he could go to psych up a crowd and get them
yeah,
engaged, and then he can jump in a booth and give such a thoughtful narrative on what the situation is, all those years being the editor in chief at Surfing World
yep.
and beyond. And then Ronnie putting together magazines as well. It's like
Mm.
that journalism background for them really makes them stand out because their personalities, they can make you laugh in just like the quickest wit in the world, but they're so surf based in journalism and telling stories and really finding that thread of what happened that day, and
Yeah,
I think you hear that in their call.
yeah, for sure. Do you get much surfing in when you're doing the tour?
Yeah, it depends on events. So El Salvador this year, I felt like I was on a surf trip, and they don't always feel that way. There's some events I've actually not even opened my board bag just because the only good days were the days we ran,
Mhm.
and then you're packing up and going to the next location. Fiji last year, how heartbreaking is that? I didn't surf once. It was
Wow.
flat. Um, and it just didn't work out. But there's some that it just goes the opposite. I've been to Fiji where you feel like you're on a surf trip because there's a lot of lay days with decent surf. But El Salvador this year, oh my goodness, like they would, if it was called off because Punta Roca would be not contestable, there were waves that were overhead, like just down the coast, and it's pretty hot there, so you got to surf like quick, like hour sessions. Like one day I
Mhm.
surfed 3 times in a day, and I surfed pretty much every day in El Sal to the point where I frothed out so hard. I brought 3 boards to Australia. I haven't packed 3 boards to an event since I started. I used to, and I
Yeah.
realized, oh, I'm not surfing that much. I've gone down to 1 board sometimes in the past, and I got so psyched. I was like, oh, I'm surfing. So I brought like a twin fin. I brought like a short board, a step up, and I got a little carried away. But like at the moment, there's really good waves out front,
Yeah,
and
it
so
is.
and then I think tomorrow will be fun. So I'm really happy that the contest ended when it did. A couple of
Yeah.
down days just to to try to get a couple before heading to the West.
Awesome. Okay, so we all have our own comfortable size of waves that we surf.
Yeah, for sure.
Like triple overhead is very daunting to me. Double overhead, I'm quite comfortable, especially if it's a reef sort of tapering off down the line. It's sort of into the lagoon and have a breath. But enough about me. What about you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older too, I am super comfortable with not going out. And that comes too with living on the North Shore of Oahu. It's like there are days when it's just so big, and I don't feel bad. Like it's a cool community in that too. Like people respect you for making decisions like that of not going out, more than just thinking you have to and then putting yourself or other people in a bad spot. So I don't feel anything of like, oh God, here's like a giant 20-foot swell. Here I go. I know my comfort zone these days, and I'm really happy with it. I think when I was younger, I think we all went through that, where you just end up in bad positions just because you thought you had to. You're like, oh gosh, I'm a surfer. What? I need to be out here. This is what I need to do. And man, there's so many amazing waves to surf, and I just definitely know when I'm not going out and when I am. I'm really comfortable about that. Going to chopes and stuff, like I'll surf it when it's not quite chopes, and then when it gets really real, I'm like, gosh, I'm so happy to watch. And maybe like 20 years ago, I would have felt like, oh, what am I doing? But yeah, I'm in a really happy place. I like having fun, and I'm not too into scaring myself anymore.
Right. Yeah, true. So places like Chopes and Fiji, being reef breaks, you have that studio then back on the mainland for you guys set up with the live streaming broadcast in front of you to make the commentary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think years ago, the event in Tahiti was in the tower, but that's a lot of equipment and so much going on out there. And with wind and how the tower shakes, it just wasn't really a smart place to have it. But yeah, it's so it's on land on the point in Tahiti. Same thing for Fiji. We're broadcasting from the Marriott, a few miles away. And so you have these big monitors. There's like the program monitor, and that's the one right in the middle of us. And that's what everybody in the world sees. We have another monitor, which we call the sneaky cam. And sometimes we'll have a shot on the lineup so we can see sets. A lot of times before a post-heat interview, they pop up on the sneaky, so I know that's like our next thing we're going to.
Right.
And that extra camera is nice, especially when we don't have eyes on the lineup like some spots. So they do a pretty good job of showing us like conditions and the sneaky. Yeah. And then it's our responsibility not to get distracted by the sneaky cam and talk about something that viewers can't see. That's usually a growing point for someone new, where they go, oh my gosh, look at that. But it's the camera that's not the one that everyone sees, and you don't want viewers to wonder what you're looking at, So yeah. It's a nice resource for us though, when we're not right on top of the waves.
Geez, so much to talk about. So you got a few days off, which is nice to relax, and then off to Margaret River, into the wine valleys and wineries, I should say. You guys sort of get together and at the same time promoting tourism for every state that you go to, like Victoria, Queensland, now the WA, and you and the team sort of go out, and I'm guessing that they shout you guys out to experience, and then you're making that with advertisements in between the calls. And I've even seen some like highlight videos of you all getting in. I've seen once Barton in a chopper running around. But that was quite a few years ago. You guys enjoying the wine and walking around. It must be not just making the call, just to experience all over the world, the different cultures, the different landscapes, and obviously culinarily, I can't get that word out, the delights of all the food and whatever they have for you. It'd be, you've been to a place, you go, oh, can't wait, Margaret River. let's get back to such and such a winery. I miss that wine. I haven't had it for a while, sort of thing, you know?
Oh, for sure. It's so cool. And it's true, Spinksy, like WA rolls out the red carpet. It's one of the best as far as what we get to do on down days. And, they're such a big part of that event. They always have been, Tourism WA. This guy, Sam, is such a legend. And we see him and we just get excited. And we're like, it's a lay day. What are we doing? It's really cool. It's kind of stuff that I wouldn't sign up for on my own. So I really, really appreciate it. And going to like the Lewin estate and meeting the head winemaker and then, going through all the tastings and learning about it. And then you have like top chefs everywhere. And it's the whole time you're going, I can't believe we get to do this. And I think WA more than most, you can't wait for a lay day because of that, like looking forward to what you're doing. And, a lot of it's part of the job. Like you said, we're working, we're making pieces, we're talking about it. But it's really fun. It's a really cool balance of calling heats and doing all the sports stuff on tour. And then you just go, oh my gosh, let's go adventure. It's really a fun one for all of us, like to check out.
Yeah. Do you guys get to bed early to get up early for the call or yeah?
Yeah, most of us. Yeah, no, for sure. I can't function if I'm up late, and that is it's a balance, because there's some events where there's so many things on, even here at Burley, there's so many things I wanted to go check out. They had these rad Shapers nights and, I always have to manage my socializing, because the live call is like, I give so much, in those, it's like the energy and being on, and so I kind of know when I've got to have a quiet dinner,
Yeah.
and then everyone's
feel
different.
A little trained.
I just like, I need to like turn off before I go to bed, and so this week I ate by myself a couple times, like by choice, just wanted quiet, and then woke up the next morning and was fired up. So I love like going to bed early. We're up so early, like our shuttles in El Sal are like 5 a.m. You're waking up at 4 or something and shaving in the dark. And so for me, I can look forward to those wake ups if I'm in bed like at 8:30 or something. And that's cool. If I'm up too late, that affects my voice and everything. So
yeah, true. Yeah. So definitely Margaret River would be one of your highlights to go around and do the call. What would be the top 3 places that you really, really look forward to going to?
Yeah, I think, with my type of surfing, I'm not trying to chase scary waves. For me as a natural footer, J Bay is just insane. It's a wave I feel satisfied. If I don't do a turn, I don't feel like I need to perform. I just want to go fast, and I'm getting older now. I'm pretty good with surfing however I want, but it's just such a rad place to go really fast and you're not kicking yourself no matter what happens on that wave. In my surfing experience, it's like you can just fly and you're immediately satisfied with the feeling you get from going straight. And then you feel like you've really gone to another world, with the safaris and the culture and the way the air feels and the aloe plants and all that. So can't wait to get to J Bay always. So stoked. It's back on the calendar following the Olympic year. So that's always at the top. Fiji's like a cartoonish paradise. I had a couple sessions with Potts that like I'll never forget, where he's calling me into waves at restaurants, and it was like too low tide really to surf, and everyone was going to cloud break because of the tide and everything. But Potts, being the legend he is, seeing a lot, he's like, you know what? We're waiting for the tide to be right. We're just going to sit out there until it's on. Like, might as well wait out there. And it was during lunch. People are waiting for the buffet to open. And I was like, Potts, I'm kind of hungry. And he's like, we're going to eat waves, man. And I was like, oh, fair enough. And man, it was shallow too. It was so shallow. I remember like paddling and I like kind of wasn't getting into this one. And all I saw was dry reef. And I'm like, oh, like pulled off. I turn around and a bigger one's behind me. I'm like on the reef. And Potts looks down on me going, "Oh my God, I've killed Joe," because he's like telling me to be out there with him. And I those ones where you duck dive and it's not as bad as you think it'll be. It was like I popped out and he was like, "Oh, thank God." And we were laughing so hard. And
oh no.
And then it just started turning on where you could go. And Potts has already gotten like 4. And I'm still trying to go, is this doable? And he's like, "Come on, yeah, you're on. Just don't go to the bottom. Don't go to the bottom. It's too shallow." And I just kept like a high line and like would just go so long down the line. Someone on a boat took a photo of like me going down the line and Potts paddling back and looking up at me because he had got the first one. And that's like one of my favorite memories of being on tour, especially with Potts and Fiji. So yeah, J-Bay, Fiji, and then when Portugal was in October and it's actually switching back, there were some great sessions along that peninsula where the wind's good somewhere. And we had a lot of fun, over the years in Portugal, just getting great waves and really good food and good people. So I'd say those have kind of taken the top 3 over the years.
Okay. Yep. Wow. Where do you think this is going to go in the future? Like, we have a lot of interesting AI has really, really progressed, and like every day it changes, How do you think that will evolve, possibly, or if not already, with the broadcasting with WSL?
Yeah, with AI, it's like you want to embrace it, right? You don't want to be left behind. And so what I've noticed in like Major League Baseball at home and the NBA, they have like AI sponsors, I think with Google or whatever it is, Google Analytics and artificial intelligence and stuff like that. And then I just think for pro surfing, that can only just help with research and stats, and really developing really awesome, just tracking surfing history, but also developing great ways to record it, like we haven't seen before. So I'm really curious to see how that can help the broadcast as far as, making the storylines easier to reach. Sometimes a Google search, you can get lost. And if those AI things get trained to be your best top researcher, I'm like, wow, that could be really exciting. When I worked the Olympics for NBC for a couple of years, there's like 3 researchers like waiting for me to ask them questions on what I needed. And I just imagined even if they are leaning on AI, a great tool, they could probably organize a lot of different ideas, for just great storytelling and remembering things from the past and balancing it with breaking down numbers and streaks and stats. I think it's pretty cool. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
true. We're going to be listening to you when the Olympics are in LA for the surfing. It's at Trestles too, isn't it? Yeah.
Trestles. How crazy is that? Yeah, I don't know. I usually find out like the start of that Olympic year, and so it's fun. It's like at home. It's an NBC gig. It's really funny, Spinksy. It's like first one was Japan, and we're out on the northeast coast in Connecticut in this place called Stamford. It's this giant building. And it's enormous. Thousands of people work there. I walked in there with this badge and you're just going, oh my gosh. And you see all these like athletes, that you're like, oh, that must be a boxer. We were next to the water polo guys. There's like a booth with or a room with like 30 booths. And there's like the rowing announcers. And then it was like surfing and it's a pretty wild building. You walk in there, there's monitors everywhere. The biggest control rooms I've ever seen in more than one. And, they knew where the surfers were right away. They're like, you must be a surfer. How'd you know? I don't. But it was really fun. It's really funny though. What I was getting at is just being across the planet and calling an event. Just usually you're there, and if you need a question from a surfer or coach, you just go ask them. And I was like texting like the judges, like, how do the waves look? And they're like, where are you? I'm like, I'm not there. And so that changes the feeling of it for sure. But it's a pretty wild feeling going into a building of that size that covers just the highest level of sport.
Yeah, especially with the time difference too.
That was the other crazy part with Japan. We were like in the middle of the night calling heats and then sleeping during the day. Tahiti was a very favorable time zone for us. So it was actually like, I could get used to this. You'd be like do a workout in the gym. The first call, 1 p.m. I was like, oh, wow. I'm not, usually we're like up on dark. First call is like 6 something. And so for Tahiti, the time zone was in our favor. And, you know, for Trestles, it'll be pretty easy because that's just 3-hour difference.
Yeah, you're right on, aren't you? Wow, insane. So you have a baby daughter over there. You get to, with your downtime, I'm guessing you're pretty doing a lot of FaceTime and stuff to catch up what you're missing over there while you're running around with a surfboard bag and a microphone in your mouth.
Yeah, totally. FaceTime is the best gift ever. It's like last night I ran out of batteries telling a nighttime story to my daughter.
Oh, no.
And it's just really cool, you know, to set up the phone there and she lays down and then I can start telling the story and I see her like falling asleep.
Cute.
So it definitely is, you know, for the, you know, it's the hardest part of the job and of saying goodbye and missing all the people you love. And I think with FaceTime, it's awesome. I'm always like, hey, you can call me anytime you want. If I'm working, I'll call you right back. And being able to see each other's face just makes the world so much smaller. You know, it's not just hearing your voice. It's like I can actually see her. She can show me something in her room. She can show me what she got in her homework. And I can help her with her homework on the phone. It's wild. We'll just hang out. And sometimes it's not just complete dialogue. It's just, I'm right there. I'm just like, you know, she'll just be like, Dad, don't go anywhere. And she just like puts me right next to her, you know? And so I really appreciate technology for that.
Yeah,
you know?
true. Would they tune into any of the broadcasts, like particularly over here? Or no, you're sleeping. They're sleeping then. So yeah.
They do sometimes. They do sometimes. Not all the time though. Like it's funny. I'll get a text like, when's this thing gonna run? And I'm like, oh, we're in the quarters, you know. And then I have some where I get a text like, oh my gosh, how good are the waves? You know, if the waves are pumping, they tune in all the time. And other than that, they're busy with what's going on at home. So you know, they can easily miss like 5 events, and then they could definitely watch like 5 in a row. It just kind of depends what's going on.
Awesome, epic. Well, mate, I'm going to leave it on that note. I know you're a busy man, and you had mentioned earlier there are waves, so you might want to go out there and have a dip in the briny and get a few of those ones on that little sand bank out there out at Burleigh, which is looking pretty good. Again, Joe, really appreciate your time coming on my podcast, The Weekend Waves. I wish you all the best and all. Looking forward to Margaret River, and I hope to catch up with you again sometime, mate. So again, appreciate you, mate. You.
So stoked, Spinksy. Thanks so much for having me, man. All the best, and keep in touch.
Welcome, mate. Thank you.
Cheers.